Chapter 6. The King of the Dwarves. The warriors once again made their way through the sea of corpses. As Ectheon sloshed through the gore-filled water, he wondered if all they were going through was really worth it. He could have been in Teluvia at that moment, lying beneath the shade of the golden oaks without a care in the world or an ache in his body. Instead, he was wading through a river of dead bodies in some godforsaken place within the dark depths of the mountains. "What time do you suppose it is?" Dialus asked the prince. "Who can tell in this dreary, sunless place?" Ectheon replied. "Night and day all seem to blend into one within these dark halls. How can you stand not seeing the sun or feeling the fresh air against your skin?" Errol asked Doran. "It is not by choice that my people live beneath the mountains," the dwarf explained. "It is through necessity. The mountains offer us protection. This is the only place where we truly feel safe." "I would hate to see your idea of a dangerous place," Arlon quipped as he brushed a floating corpse out of his path. "I know the reasons why your people settled here," Beadril said, "but the outside world has changed a great deal since you closed the gates of your kingdom. The evil that drove your ancestors here has been dormant for quite some time now." "Dormant, but not yet dead," Doran noted. "My people farm the upper slopes of the eastern side of this mountain. Below them, they can still see the vile fog that chokes the valley we once called home. The blackened spires of our destroyed capital city Vorengaust reach out from the mist like the fingers of a corpse piercing through a death shroud, reminding us of the treachery that befell our kingdom. There is not a dwarf in this kingdom who does not fear deep in his heart that the armies of evil will emerge again from the mist to finish what they set out to do many years ago. Until the veil of evil is swept away and the sun shines once again on the valley of Marchon, my people will call this mountain their home." After a long march, the warriors found themselves in a large, brightly lit passage. It was far different than the mining tunnels in which they had been traveling. The massive proportions of the corridor astonished the young elves. Large gold lanterns, about 20 feet apart, lined the gray stone walls of the passage. The travelers passed several of them without seeing a single sign of a dwarf. As they neared the center of the mountain, they came to a series of elaborate archways. At these places, the ceiling was much higher, and paths crossing above and below the main level could be seen. The images of past heroes surrounded by floral designs and other symbols of nature carved into the mountain's interior alluded to memories of a former existence in the outside world. The beauty of the finely chiseled structures showed that the mountain dwellers were more than a practical people. They had an artistic side as well. The artistry of the dwarf masons was a welcome sight for the young elves' eyes. They had grown weary of looking upon the monotonous, dark walls of the mine passages. For a short while, the warriors forgot about their aches and pains. Their thoughts were whisked away to a time when dwarves and elves lived in peace in the world outside the mountain. The detail of the stone carvings was so magnificent that they almost seemed to come to life. One could almost hear the wind rustling through the granite leaves of the chiseled trees. As they approached the city of Larsgol, or the City of the Golden Lake, as it was commonly called, the young warriors stopped. They stood in awe of the sight before them. Two towering trees carved from gray stone loomed mightily before and above them. The enormous artificial oaks stood like sentries on either side of the mouth of the cavern. The gates of the city were closed. Two heavily armed dwarf guards stood before the doors. "Who goes there?" one of the guards demanded as Doran and the others drew near. "Doran, son of Dargo," Doran announced. The guards immediately kneeled before Doran. "Forgive me, your majesty. I did not recognize you in your traveling garb," the first guard said. "Your majesty?" Cerbas asked, in incredulity. "Yes, that is right," Doran said. "I am Doran the Red, king of Marchon." "Why did you not tell us you were the king of the dwarves?" Ectheon asked. "I did not think you would believe me," Doran explained. "Besides, by keeping my identity a secret, I was able to discern your true character. You are a shrewd one, Your Highness, Diaxes remarked. I am glad we passed your test. You did more than pass a test, Dorn said. You saved my kingdom, and you certainly have earned your reward. So, with that in mind, I welcome you to Larsgol, the city of the Golden Lake. The guards opened the doors, revealing a vast cavern. The city derived its name from the fact that the cavern walls were made of gold. The sparkling reflection gave the calm waters of the lake a golden appearance. The city itself was located on a large stone island in the center of the lake. 4 bridges spanned the waters surrounding the dwarf nation's capital. The city of Larsgol stood like a gem in a sea of gold. That night, the travelers from Teluvia were the guests of honor at a great feast. They sat at the table of King Doran as servants brought them the finest food and drink the kingdom of the dwarves had to offer. So, what is the purpose of your journey to Marshall? Doran asked Diaxes. We have come on behalf of His Majesty King Eluthian of Teluvia to petition you for a resumption of trade between our kingdoms, Diaxes explained. Indeed, so great is the king's desire to mend the relationship between the elves and the dwarves that he has sent all 3 of his sons on this mission. Ever since the Devordians waged war against my people and drove us into hiding beneath the mountains, my people have been distrustful of elves, Doran said. It was an unfortunate reaction, born of a very dark and violent time, and it ignored the fact that the great elf king Audrian gave his very life to save the dwarves from Diobor and his Devordian army. King Eluthian is right. It is time for my people to end their isolation. You may tell your king that he has a friend in Marshall. The king will be most pleased to hear that, Your Majesty, Diaxes said. And now I must press further and put our newly forged alliance to the test. Teluvia is in grave peril, Your Highness. A tyrant has risen to power on our western border. He is well aware of the toll the Black Dragon took on our kingdom, and I am afraid he is all too eager to take advantage of our weakened condition. The king lost his entire army in his war with the dragon. Now, enough able-bodied elves have returned to Teluvia to raise a new army, but we need weapons to arm these new soldiers. I fear that if we do not get them soon, Teluvia will fall. The debt I owe you and your king is a great one, Doran said. Tell King Eluthian he will have his weapons. Our smiths will work day and night until every last soldier of the Teluvian army is armed. But alas, you must know that despite even our greatest efforts, it will take time to accomplish this feat. I understand, Diaxes said. With your permission, I will leave Eadril and young Errol behind to act as liaisons between Marchand and Argent. As for me and the others, we must return to the king's side immediately to prepare for the coming invasion.